Oh. Oh. So they're just this is just cursor. This is just cursor. They're just making cursor now in as a default in VS Code if you're paying for Copilot. That's cool. Better tests. Tests are pretty bad in cursor, so that would be interesting. Who gives a fuck? That's interesting. Putting in an X code. That's kind of crazy. Holy shit. Uh that's kind of crazy. Uh, Okay. Mm. Yeah, they're like GitHub's like, the future of GitHub is just all AI. Like there is no GitHub without AI and Copilot. There just isn't. There's no separation whatsoever. Which is interesting. Um, just how much they're like. Obviously, they're pushing that, but um, I think it's over. It's over. That's it. Actually, that's all. So you could only watch one of them at a time. So if you want to watch the security one, you have to go over to the other session, I guess. But no, it's interesting. I mean, I don't actually have a lot to say. I wanted to throw the stream up. I kind of thought it was going to be a longer thing, maybe more in-depth thing. It seems like it's not. I just wanted to stream it just because, I registered for it. I'm watching it live. I figured I'd stream it live if they said anything interesting. But I mean, none of this should really come as a shock. I mean, this is where we're at. Now, I will say these new updates to GitHub and Copilot are really, really going to rival, if not eclipse, the offerings that Cursor has. I think that they're trying to kill Cursor here. And I think that this new update might actually do a good job of that because a lot of these things Cursor can't really do. I think as long as you still have access to all the models in the new VS Code Copilot and everything like that, I think it might actually end up being an even more powerful tool than ever because it's going to be able to directly integrate with your GitHub repos and read through everything for context way easier, and also create pull requests, and you can assign them tasks and everything like that. Like it's going to take the productivity up a few notches more than what Cursor can currently do, and ultimately Cursor is never going to fully be able to do that and fully integrate with GitHub in that way because they're a third party. This is GitHub first party. They're backed by Microsoft. They're owned by Microsoft. And they're developing all this to integrate with VS Code, Microsoft, and integrate with GitHub, which is their own company. So, I honestly see a future where Cursor maybe falls on the wayside, and that may be a very, very near future. And I think that really comes into the conversation of these things are going to change all the time. The tools are going to change all the time. And you have to be ready and willing to jump ship if things improve or get bad or whatever. Like, I don't really see a world where you're going to be able to get married to any particular one of these softwares because there's always going to be something else either coming out with a great new update or something coming that is made by some new company or something and just blows the competition out of the water. I think that's always going to be happening. So getting married to any particular, I mean, it's like I see that conversation all the time in programming is like, it's like a funny icebreaker or whatever, like, oh, what's your favorite IDE, what do you code in, whatever. And for the longest time that really was such an obvious indicator, like almost like personality indicator, like taste indicator, or it also indicated sometimes what languages you preferred. But now I think it's becoming more, this is just an example, I'm not saying specifically with the IDE thing, but it's just like getting married to anything now is pointless because there's just going to be something else coming out so quickly right behind it that may blow it out of the water entirely, and you'd be stupid not to jump over and start using that instead. And we also may find a situation where we're jumping between our normal VS Code with GitHub Copilot, whatever, if that's your thing, and then jumping over to Cursor when they come out with a new update. That's great. And then using that for a while, then jumping back over when a new update, like that just might become the ecosystem. I don't really know. In terms of game dev, that's not the case right now. In terms of game dev, it's like if you're not on Unreal Engine 5, there's just, you don't have as much support and resources, and there's not as much new cool shit coming out for it to support that environment. That's just how it is. That space is pretty dominated right now by Unreal 5. Now, should you make every game on Unreal 5? Absolutely fucking not. But a lot of devs are anyway. So literally, if you're not using Unreal 5, and you're trying to get a job in the industry or whatever, or stay relevant in the industry, you're just not. If you're not on Unreal 5 making stuff, you're not relevant. That's just how it is. And I don't see that changing anytime soon, because that ecosystem just continually, like, there's not enough competition, and the amount of resources it's going to take to compete with Unreal 5 at this point is so immense that very few companies can even possibly do it. Because they don't have the money. Epic is just money printing with Fortnite and its other properties. There's no end in sight to the Unreal Engine dynasty. Now, over on the programming side, when it comes to IDEs and everything like that, we may be flip-flopping. We may be, oh, hey, this new AI tool came out, I'm using that. Oh, now there's a new AI. Like, if you, for web dev, you have Figma. Well, there might be something that comes out soon that, and there already has, if you're still married to Figma, there already has been things that have just blown Figma out of the water in terms of workflow and like prototyping and stuff and designing. And you'd be dumb not to move over to it. Now, you don't have to, but like, you're missing out on some very easy gains in productivity and turnaround times if you don't move over and like switch to this other parallel competitor for that thing. And I think that if you want to remain competitive, you're going to just have to do that. That's just part of it. A lot of people aren't going to do that. A lot of your contemporaries or your competitors are not going to be doing that. They're going to get married to what they like and what they know, and they're not going to want to stop. They're not going to want to change. And that is your opportunity to get a leg up on the competition by adopting these new things as they're happening, as they're coming out. That's why I watch this live stream, because you got to stay sharp at all times, know what's going on, know what's coming down the pipeline, know how it might fit into your productivity workflow and everything like that, and your development pipeline, and be ready to adopt it at a moment's notice if you feel like it might improve your productivity or your efficiency or your quality or give you your time back, whatever that is, because that is ultimately going to be the most differentiating factor between you and your competition. And trust me from experience, present day, experiencing it as we speak, people do not want to learn new shit. So if you do want to learn new shit and that's easy for you, or that's something you're willing to do, you can stay so much ahead of the competition as a result, because everyone else around you in your office or wherever at your job, and this is not just with tech, this is with anything. This is not just with tech. No one wants to learn new shit. If you want to learn new shit, you will be the person that is the versatile, sharpened blade that people will call upon at all times, because you have that skill set. Because everyone else, when they have to learn something new or do something new, or the processes change or the software changes or whatever the fuck, there's a new update or anything, their fucking heads explode. Their heads explode. There's steam coming out of their ears. They don't know what to do. They're decommissioned for a whole fucking 24 hours or a whole week because they just can't wrap their head around this shit. And that is the majority of people in certain aspects. Some people, if it, depending on what you're a specialist in, you may be very confident in that area, but you go outside of that area and then all of a sudden you're going to be a Luddite and you're going to be like afraid of change and you're not going to adapt very well. So there's levels to that, but that's the general gist, is be ready to learn the new shit, keep your ear to the ground of what's going on. That's why I watched this, even though it was fucking boring and dry as shit, way more boring than I thought it was going to be and shorter than I thought it was going to be. GitHub here has already made up their mind. And if you look at the Q&As, which I was kind of skimming as it was going on. By the way, there was only 1,650 people that was watching that last keynote. Okay? This is the American stage, they call it. This is like they've had a few for different regions of the world because of different time zone differences. This is the American one. 1,600 people were in it. That is not a lot of people. That's like nothing for how many people in DevOps or how many programmers there are, how many blah blah blah. 1,600 people. That's fucking insane. And so that's how many people are even the faintest interested in potentially learning about the cutting edge stuff as it's coming out, as it's happening. That should tell you something. You know, there's just not a lot of people who are willing to learn. They get set in their ways. They like what they like. You know, oh, I only know this programming language. That's it. That's all I'm going to use. I only know this IDE. I learned that, 15 years ago. That's it. That's all I'm going to use. Doesn't even matter if something better comes out. I don't want to learn it. I just don't. I'm just lazy, or I can't be bothered. Whatever it is. So GitHub and Microsoft, there's this whole ecosystem that if you're not a part of, you're going to get left behind, I think, in the long term. GitHub is trying to kill Cursor to the utmost, I'd say. It's a safe bet, okay? The only way that would not be the case is if you cannot use Claude, which I actually didn't hear. I don't remember hearing specifically Claude. Now, it could be in there. If you can't use Claude and Anthropic stuff with the new VS Code Copilot, then Cursor's still alive. Because I know Cursor and Anthropic, they're very tight, I believe. And those platforms are very, very tight with each other. So that would be the only reason Cursor is going to stay potentially on top after this update comes out for GitHub Copilot. Because like I said, these integrations with GitHub and the repos and the issue tracking and improved unit testing was the other thing I really wanted to touch on, because frankly, that is the shortcoming of, I think, AI programming at all in general, no matter what model you're going with, no matter what you're doing, no matter what the project is. Fucking AI is terrible at unit testing. It just is. I don't really know why. It doesn't really make sense why. Like, I can't understand why that would be the case. Even if you hold its hand for good unit testing, give it information that it needs, everything like that, it's still just like cannot wrap its fucking head around passing unit tests and writing good unit tests, or even checking unit tests properly. Half the time it can barely do. So if this GitHub Copilot can improve unit testing, that's also huge. And I think that's reason enough to switch over to Cursor, or to switch over to VS Code with Copilot. If that is the case, I don't know though. There's a lot of potential for smoke and mirrors here on this. It might not be ready right this second today. It might be ready a few months from now and be at that point where it's going to be, better, a big improvement from Cursor. I don't know. I don't even know when this is going live. They didn't fucking say it the entire time, which is weird. But GitHub is quadrupling down on AI. That's not stopping. That's not going anywhere. We're going to see a lot of AI integration with GitHub, even more than we have already, because now, and they addressed a few of the security concerns, because we all know that a lot of the security issues that we've run into recently has been because of GitHub repos being infiltrated by threat actors and you know, them injecting malicious code into repos of open source libraries and shit like that as a means of an attack vector. And we understand that there is a big risk there. There's a big question mark, exclamation point there. And we want to make sure that since now it is clear that GitHub is going to be allowing Copilot to sort of be able to have unfettered access to your repos and your code base so long as you give it that access. It has the ability to look at all of that and interact with it and create pull requests and to create new branches. He said that too. It created a new branch automatically. You can assign issues to it, and it's going to tackle that issue in the background, seemingly using, just by the way, seemingly using GitHub's server infrastructure to take the load of that process in the background. Like, this isn't happening on your host machine. This is not nothing's bogging down your host system to do these operations. You assign GitHub a task on Copilot. You assign Copilot a task on GitHub, and it tackles that task in the background, just server side, and it'll just ping you with a notification or an email or whatever. Hey, it's done. Check the code out. Here's my pull request. Here's the full documentation of everything I did. Go review the code. You can. I also opened it in a new branch, in a dev branch over here, so it doesn't fuck up the prod branch, and fuck up main, all that kind of stuff, and completely non-destructive, and it's a done deal. Like that's valuable. Like, you can't argue that that's not valuable, and nothing else can do that at the moment. Nothing else can integrate with GitHub that distinctly and natively, where the Copilot is now a co-collaborator who's literally listed in the assignees list, in the fucking team list of who's on the repo that you can assign issues to or blah 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 reply to, and it's gonna you can have a conversation in the comments thread of the issue or of the fucking pull request. All very cool. However, what this also does is it is gonna make it, if that is leveraged, which there I think is great reason to leverage, but it is going to make it so that if you are doing that, the transparency of who's writing the code, where did the code come from, like, that's gone. Like, because if you're really going to leverage that, it's going to say GitHub Copilot wrote it. It's not going to say you wrote it. So if you really want to leverage all that extra features and that extra efficiency, you're only going to be able to claim a very certain portion, a very particular portion of the credit for that win or that issue being solved or whatever. So is this going to help you at your day job? Like, I don't know. You know what I mean? Because, like, your boss can just see that you didn't actually write the code. Like, so there's an interesting transparency thing there that I actually think is good for transparency. Now, obviously, people are still going to be able to push AI code and, like, copy paste and everything like that, and, like, you won't know. But this is a step towards, like, a level of transparency that hasn't existed at all yet. Like, at least now there may be some receipt of, like, okay, this is how it was made. It was made a lot with AI. Here's the exact transcript where you can see, as he said, look through its thinking, what its thought process was step by step, and how it did everything, which is really nice also, by the way, for documentation's sake, because we don't have that unless fucking you're like Mark Zuckerberg in a social network at the beginning, where he's, like, writing in his blog about how he's making face smash or whatever and, like, gloating about it. Like, unless you're doing that as an eccentric programmer who's journaling as you're coding, you don't really have that, like, train of thought as much. So it's, like, interesting to have that and to see the step-by-step thought process of how you get to a solution for something in the code. So that's interesting to think about. But ultimately, I don't know. Like it's cool, you know. It is. It's cool. I just hope that I don't know. I hope they don't hike the prices up. I don't know. Like, what is there really to? I don't know. I I don't know when it's coming out. But it looks good, and I think it's going to give Cursor a big run for its money, especially for the people who never wanted to leave VS Code in the first place and install a new IDE, because now you just stay on VS Code if you really want to. And I think that's a point in their direction as well. So, um, I think it's all like I think it's all good things, and I think that Microsoft and GitHub, it would seem, they are thinking about security. Like they are like as much as you can. But imagine a fucking rogue AI co-pilot. Okay, can we just imagine for a second? Can we be honest and can we imagine that for a second? Because it's quite plausible. Okay, I'm gonna make myself bigger. It's quite plausible. A rogue AI co-pilot, you train it to be malicious. Okay, it has access to all the repos. It could change all. Another attack vector, like I said, that's already been being exploited recently to the upteenth and has caused a ton of near fucking disasters, near miss disasters, probably even stuff that's happening right now that we don't even know about yet, that hasn't popped off yet, that hasn't what's the word, been initiated, but is sitting, lurking, waiting for the sleeper cell code to be uttered so that it could spring to life and fuck everything up. We don't know. There's probably some dormant shit on some repos somewhere that's going to trigger and fuck some shit up at some point. And so to be able to give the AI a bigger vector like that, it's this shit's going to be used for bad just as much as it's getting used for good. That's something that we have to keep in mind and try to always be like vigilant for. Is everyone going to be vigilant for it as we've seen in the past? Probably not. It's going to be, if we're lucky, like one hyper autistic guy that works somewhere along the lines with the thing and interacts with that code base and will maybe catch it if we're lucky. We've gotten already lucky a few times with that, so we'll see, but how long until the luck runs out. But I think that they are trying to be kind of security minded here. They were throwing around the security a lot. There's another webinar that they are going to release where they talk about the security as well. For solo projects, as a solo developer, I mean, a lot of that security stuff isn't really a huge deal. It's not a huge deal. Now, would I use that right away out of the box, like the Copilot assistant integration into the repo? Would I use that right away out of the box in big, important projects, collaborating with other team members for like high stakes client work or something? Like, probably not. Like, that's kind of crazy. But for your solo stuff, your little solo pet projects, I mean, yeah, I mean, absolutely right away out of the box. Fuck it, right? I mean, like, if it fucks your repo up, like, whatever, back it up. I don't know. Like, it's not as big of a deal. Like, the security implications, not as big of a deal for your video game that you're making, your single player RPG you're making, it's like whatever. But yeah, I wouldn't start using it right away when it comes out for your important stuff necessarily, you know what I mean? But yeah, I don't know, that's really all I have to say on it. I mean, this is a super short stream. I'm really busy today. I just got married, got a lot of stuff going on, so I just wanted to throw this up, and we'll have this as the restream. I'll cut this up for video later, but yeah, I don't know. I was expecting it to be longer. I was expecting it to be a little crazier. I mean, this is a lot of stuff that we could all see coming. I mean, this is not groundbreaking stuff. I thought they'd have a little bit more interesting stuff. I mean, it's really just the big headline here is GitHub's trying to fucking kill Cursor for sure. They're trying to murder Cursor and put them in the grave with this new push that they're making for this new update. So we'll see. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching, listening, whatever. Like I said, short stream, but hope you're doing well out there. Some stuff coming up. I don't know when. Like I said, I'm so fucking busy. New streams coming though. Maybe even Fish Tank. We don't know. Look, we don't know, dude. You didn't hear that from me. You did not hear that from me. I know season 4 is coming soon this summer. I know Blood Games is coming soon. But you didn't hear that from me. Okay, guys. I'll catch you later. See ya.